Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 16th of February, year 2022. I just wanted to remind everyone, 16th of February is actually Eckhart Tolle's birthday. So happy birthday, Eckhart. And we shall get started with our Facebook panel. I don't see a couple of the Facebook panel teachers. I know Eileen will not be able to make it. She had to work today, but we joined with April, who is our psychic, and she has quite a few modalities of healing that you all can always contact her and find out more, get some one-on-one counseling or a session, a healing session. And she's a spiritual teacher. Good evening, April. Then we also have Michelle, who is a fellow member. Good evening, Michelle. And then joined by Patricia, who's here. Good evening, Patricia. And Ken has joined us and has become a regular member on the panel. Good evening. Hope everyone is staying warm. So I actually, since Michelle is here, I wanted to bring up the question that Michelle had, April. A couple of weeks back, we were discussing karma, but her question was multi-level because we did discuss karma, but she also asked about reincarnation, that she does not believe in reincarnation, right? And then also was the fact that how do you dissolve the karma? So I wanted to see if you wanted to go into that. How can
clarify? Not that I didn't believe in reincarnation, that I'm kind of not sure about it. So, but I'm kind of leaning towards, yes, this is making more and more sense. Just to clarify.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Go ahead, April.
Sure. Oh. We're joined by Samar too. Yeah.
Yes.
So we have this idea of karma, which instantly, most people's idea is that it is, like if you do good things come to you. If you do bad things come to you. If you do any bad deeds, that comes back around. And part of that is essentially true, is, if you are going around in the world and you're not being so nice, because what you put out energetically does come back to you. So there is some validation to it. There is some truth to that. And then I remember Patricia had a different perspective on it, and that karma perhaps is just a part of the egoic mind. And so I kind of dug into that a little bit deeper in the last few weeks. There's a couple different teachers that I listened to that, while Eckhart knows that there's energy, and he knows that we're here on the third dimension, and he knows, about that kind of stuff, these other teachers that I was listening to after Patricia said that, they dive more into like the dimension type thing and the quantum physics type thing. And it's not just the ego. It is an actual real thing. Our soul is actually on a path of evolution. And it is actually trying to accomplish certain goals to evolve. That is something that we are doing. Now, I think that we do have an egoic sense of karma, and that has been twisted throughout the generations. And just the first thing that comes up with that for me is, the Catholic religion and what karma meant to them. There's other, religions that throw in karma, that if you don't behave in a certain manner, do these certain things, then you are doomed to this certain death, right? But your soul is definitely on a path, and it is trying to accomplish and to evolve. It is trying to do that. And so when you do pass away, there is a review, there is a sense of, okay, what did I learn on this lifetime? What did I do well? What maybe did I not do well? And it's not doing well as far as good or bad. It's just how much did I evolve this time? How much did I grow this time is more of. So it's not necessarily good or bad, because the idea here again is if we liken it to school, you can do second grade 1,000 times, but you have to finish second grade. And nobody judges you for having to do second grade 1,000 times. But you just have to pass second grade, no matter how many times you do it, to get to third grade, to get to the next level of consciousness, to get to the next phase. So in that sense, there is somewhat of a karma, right? Because if I don't pass second grade, so I didn't learn lessons 1 through 10 about unconditional love, which is second grade, which is what second grade's all about, then I have to redo it. So in a sense, that's karma. Do you see what I'm saying? So there is, in a sense, a karma. How do you dissolve karma? Well, if you look at it through this lens, it takes a while. Honestly, it takes many lifetimes, and that's why we've had many lifetimes. That's why we reincarnate. That's why we come back. And why do we pick Earth? Because it's like the Yale or the Harvard of evolvement. It's the hard school, right? And from all the teachers I have ever listened to, they have all said that while we living here, it may certainly not feel like that at times, but it's like an honor. It's like getting into Harvard and being like, ooh, look, you get to go to Earth. Look at you. Wow. Not that the soul has that ego, but it is like, this is the place to be. This is where it's at. This is where evolving happens faster because of the amount of duality here, the amount of positive, negative, light, dark. This is the fast track to learning. So when you come here and you come enough times that your soul wakens up, it wakes up, and now we're on this path, right? So I can think probably, it resembles like normal life. Like, as a baby, I was not worried about Christ consciousness. I was not worried about, right? So the first lifetimes that I come here to Earth, my soul's just not there. It's just not ready. It's still growing and learning and waking up. But once you wake up, that is where you start to dissolve the karma. Once you wake up and you become enlightened and you start to really embrace presence, power, and unconditional love, which is what we're all working towards. We're all working towards that presence, power, that unconditional love. That in itself dissolves karma. Once you get there, once you get to that unconditional love, that Christ consciousness, that understanding that we are all one, that we come from the same source. So source is one and source split, but it never technically separated when it split. And when we all figure out that we're all one, that we're all the same, and you practice that, that's where you dissolve the karma. is it when people would say about, yeah, oh, yes. Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that, like me with the mom aspect, I was literally a mom from a child. Like I can look back and I was always my brother's mom. And it was just something that was just natural to me. I already knew how to do it. And then you add in the factor that I really didn't have a mom, but it was really okay because I already knew. So I must have been a mom in my other lifetimes. And I brought that information forward. That's the old soul where they seem to bring that information or some of that information forward. And they have a deepening inside of them. They already have some of that presence power. They already have some of that unconditional love. That's to me what makes the old soul, where it's like when you look at somebody and you can see there's a deepness to them, there's a depth to them. That's the old soul. So yes, it is. So did I miss something, Poonam?
I think you pretty much covered it, April. As far as Old Soul is concerned, what Eckhart, since we are celebrating his birthday today, I'll try and bring up all that he says about this topic. What Eckhart says is if we have not suffered enough in this lifetime, then we are an old soul because we've already have done the suffering in previous lifetimes. So most old souls, I mean, like you'd see when you compare it to another person may be getting cancer, they may be going through a whole lot of losses, financial losses, family relative losses, and you have not gone through that suffering, right? That depth of, everybody suffers on earth, that's for sure. But relative to another person, your suffering may be less. And that's what he calls, and I would think that most of us are over here are old souls, since we already are either awakening or on the path to awakening, right? We wouldn't awaken like a newer soul, I feel, is the veil is all the more thicker for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a friend that I was kindly just observing at one time. Love the friend, love the friend, no judgment there. But just observing the differences between the friends. And this particular friend is just here just to live life, just to live life, just to have fun. Just it's not that they haven't went through things, but they are just here to just be there. There's not necessarily that element of which many of us have, of that soul searching, of that depth, right? Of why am I here? What am I doing? What's this all about? That search is not really there. And that's okay. But like Poonam is saying, there's going to come a lifetime where they will ask those questions and the veil will be thinner. I think the veil is thinner too for us. It was for me. I remember from a young age, I'm going to quote myself, this game is stupid. I would always say that. This is the stupidest game somebody ever thought of. Why? Like, it just never made sense to me why I would come to this place to suffer. Like, what? It makes no, so that tells me I must have lived on some other planet. I must have lived in some other star seed or something, because to me, it's like, what is the purpose of this? Why can't we just be happy and love? But I can't grow if I don't have experience. And karma is the accumulation of all these things I have learned over all these lifetimes. And in this lifetime, I'm wanting to clear it. Not just, I love when Poonam said, I've cleaned up my diet, so I have now cleared that karma for me and my family. Like, that's the perfect example. I love that.
the compulsion, like, Sadhguru says karmic accumulation is like a compulsion, right? Our spirit wants to move in a certain direction. The intellect is forcing it to move in a certain direction. And when we can, through awareness, and that's why what April said, presence practice is the most important. The presence is what allows us to see the karmic pattern, that food is a compulsion, is an addiction for me. So the more I work on the addiction, then I'm resolving it for my whole family. I think Eileen used to talk about her abandonment and suicidal tendencies, right? In the beginning of this year, last year, 2021, we had a Facebook Live Q&A where Eileen, we walked through this whole, it almost is, April, like your story and Eileen's story is quite like intermingled, because she talks about taking care of her siblings, right? Being a mother, very young. And you said the same thing. And that was the episode where you said the abandonment story was also the same, right?
It is very similar. And I didn't know, but my story triggered Eileen, and it caused a huge release within her, which was awesome. And I think we have a negative notion with karma. It's not necessarily negative. Have we done things that, maybe we shouldn't have done, or we didn't want to do, or we gave somebody a harsh response, or we didn't say hi? Yes, but we don't always want to look at it as negative either. It is more about a learning process. But when you get to this stage, you do want to clear it up, because gaining Christ consciousness is the way out of the karmic wheel. That's the way out of it. When you reach enough enlightenment, enough Christ consciousness, presence, power, then you get off the karmic wheel. But really, it doesn't actually even work that way. It makes you very peaceful and happy. And I say it doesn't work that way, you guys, because from what I have learned is that once you reach unity and oneness, then God just starts over with your soul. It just starts over. But from what I'm gathering is that the start over will be at a higher vibration. So instead of coming to Earth and we kind of started out at the bottom vibration, we will be at a higher vibration, which will be the utopia that I'm dreaming of. So.
And that's the, that part, Eckhart says that nothing is lost. All the gains in consciousness, all the millions of humans, each gain in consciousness is helping the collective evolution, right? We are just gaining in consciousness. The other part I wanted to mention is, I don't think you die as a human and transmigrate and become an animal, because the soul of a human would have memories of the karmic patterns of the human. They would have to take birth as a human again. So a lot of people seem to think, oh, you'll be born as a raccoon or a cockroach or what have you, right? That reincarnation is another lower birth of some kind. But I think it is, go ahead, April.
So, like Dolores Cannon, she mentioned that she did past life regressions, and she had somebody that went back and they were the wind or they were the rock. But, and perhaps that was true because we are all one in that sense. We are all one, literally, all one. So that means part of us is the rock, part of us is the tree, part of us is the animal. But we as humans do not step down into the animal kingdom. Humans are at a higher level of consciousness, not better, higher, and you don't digress into like I always wanted to be a wild horse free, vegetarian, wild horse free running, but that doesn't happen that way. And also the human body is actually designed to hold consciousness. We are all the water that is in our body, the blood, the water holds the most data, information, and consciousness. That is also why one of the vortexes is in Alaska, where all the ice and the snow is, because it's water. Water is the most important. So humans, the physical design of humans and the DNA is meant to have that higher level of consciousness and meant to hold larger amounts of light. So you will not come back as a horse, you will not come back as a bird. But that does not mean that part of you is not connected to the bird or the horse or the tree. Yeah.
Thank you so much, April. So Michelle, do you want to say something about this? All questions dissolved, or are there more questions?
No, I think April, I mean, you, through our discussions previous and April's input right now, yeah, it seems clear to me that we're on a path of constantly every lifetime, or we are here to evolve. And I always resonated with that old idea of an old soul since I was young, very young. And when I was exposed to spirituality through a friend's mother, when I was in like 5th grade, I still remember how fascinated I was. And always a pull towards that, always. Like that's my favorite thing to discuss, is why we're here, the big questions, right? You know? And then when I surround my people, when I'm surrounded by people that are, I don't know if it's denser or that it's more about the human experience and having fun, or I could be in that space for a little bit, but I find it very, like the energy is just very, I don't know how to explain it. Like I'm exhausted when I leave there. So I can see that, you know, that as just in this lifetime, that's where I'm striving towards. And I would think that, you know, that's why we read the New Earth. When I read something and it resonates at that deep level, for me, that's just truth. But I didn't know like about the karmic, coming back to clear that karma and the ancestry line, right? Going back and then going forward, which to me, I think is a beautiful thing. But it's still, you know, it's so much, right? It's so broad and so much that it's a lot to take in, right? Because it's beyond our, I think, I mean, we can label it, but I don't think we get the full picture, right? Because when you said, April, that we come back, at the end, we come back and God starts us all over again. I'm like, that I never heard. So if you can elaborate a little bit on that, because that, I'm not sure what that means.
So when I heard that, I was not happy. Just going to be honest. Why do I have to play this game? I was not happy when I first heard that. So I had to take it in and I had to integrate it. And God is ever expansive, ever curious, ever growing. God is energy. And we all come from this one source, this one ball of energy. And it dispersed out. And that's us. And when you reach that level of consciousness, so the ultimate is, you know, it is like Eckhart says, die before you die. Die into the one, die into the Christ consciousness, die into presence power. But when your body actually physically dies, and let's say you are Eckhart or you are Sadhguru or, you know, you are Buddha, and you have reached that level of consciousness, So we'll say that your soul is at the end of its journey. It has learned all its lessons. It will then return back to source complete, but source doesn't stop there. It's not going to just stop and okay, that's it. We're done. Right? It can't stop. How could God stop? How could it stop? It's an energetic flow. It's an energetic being that's constantly evolving. So you will, in a sense, go back to source and then the soul will come back down. But the reason why we have this idea of spiritual warfare, which is, that's a whole different topic we'll have to hit on some other time, is because we are essentially here fighting for that evolvement, for that Christ consciousness, and we've got all these things in the way. That's our goal. That's what we're doing this for everybody to come together as one, to evolve. And if we are able to do that, what's happening is, if you notice, like, okay, so you know the phrase, what is it? I want to say Irkonese, it's not it. The what do they call those kids? The kids that are being born. The
The
new
autistic.
kids. No. The indigo children. That's an example of the souls came back that completed that at a higher level. Right? So God doesn't stop and that's it, we're done. He's just going to hold himself into this ball of energy by himself. He will continue to expand and grow.
But April, do you come back to Earth as a human being, even though you've like an
Yes.
Eckhart or a Buddha? They would come back.
Well, you can, from my understanding, you can come back to Earth. You can go back to Sirius. You can go back to Orion. You can go back to Pleiades. So yes. Now, it is my understanding that the soul can choose to come back right away. The soul can wait. And then the soul can also choose to go to one of these other galaxies. But
So the soul
yes,
has free will in that state. It's not just in human form. The soul has free will once you return.
the soul has free will in choosing where it needs to go for its expansion. Yes. So that's my example of what I mean by we will go back to source and source will start again. Children that are being born now are much more, their veils are much thinner. That's the example of it. And Samar, remember to write me on the side. I can give you the lady's name that knows all of the vortexes.
I think Summer actually wrote a couple of things here. My youngest son was told he's an old soul and he suffered with major depression. Many people say old souls are still living in the problems of previous lives. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that's an example of, some of the karma that is carried forward because of the way the human body is designed with the DNA and with the cells. It carries forward information. It's meant to hold information. So that is a perfect example of where the past life regression, you go in, somebody has headaches forever. There's no reason for them. They have a past life regression. Voila, the headaches are gone. That's a perfect example of it. But I really did enjoy Patricia's answer on looking at the ego in a different way and karma the different way. I really did like her perspective on it. So I think that her perspective was also true and that karma does have a huge egoic side to it that we get attached to and oh my gosh. But it's more about evolving and expanding and getting into that presence power than it is good or bad. Like, so not what you said, Patricia, but like society has made it.
The other question that Summer is posting in a couple of places. She says, when does our soul go to other planets?
So where is Kelly when I need him? From what I have gathered, it is about, you guys, Earth is the place to be. The other planets, like from what I have learned, like Pleiades is all like that's all they do all the time. La la la. It's all like la. There's no real. It's not that they're not learning and growing. You do learn and grow, but it's not like here. So it's really based off of what your soul wants to learn, what your soul wants to achieve, and how fast your soul wants to evolve. And I think that's different for everybody. And I also think that there are some souls like on these other galaxies that will never come to Earth. That's not what they will do. They will just be a supportive soul there. They won't ever come here. So it's really based off of, now what determines that exactly? I don't know. I mean, I'll know when I get to the other side, but I don't honestly know. I think it's our own soul's purpose. So you have your purpose, and then these events in your life, push you towards that purpose. So if my purpose was to be on this panel doing this, then I would have all these life events that would push me and land me on Poonam's page that specific day, right? What is a soul? The soul?
And then she asks, what kind of expansion is offered on other planets?
So that is something that actually, when Patricia said that, so this is how this works. My soul must have some other purpose that I'm not aware of, but I've always been somebody who's liked to learn, and I've always wanted to know more and wanted to know why. So what I've gathered is that so far is, what is the question again, Poonam? I lost it.
How do they gain what are the gains in consciousness on other planets? And actually, it's not planets, right? It's different galaxies as well. Dimensions, galaxies as well, because we are multi-sensory, multi-dimensional entities, right?
Yeah, it's all different. And when Patricia gave her statement last week, it triggered some questions within me. So I started doing research. I started learning. So I'm like, I don't know the full answer to that, like which one is for which, but that's exactly actually what I'm learning right now. I do think that they are different. I think each one has a different kind of purpose, a different kind of evolving. And from what I can gather too, is that souls, and I don't know if anybody else knows this answer, they can chime in, but like Pleiades are kind of Pleiades, like, right? Earth is kind of like it is now. It's like the melting pot where these other ones can come visit us. And I'm kind of getting the sense that if you're here on Earth, you can be from other star systems, but many of us, we started here with Earth. We started here. This is our place. This is our job to help God, the universe evolve, is to be here on this place and to help Earth evolve. As we evolve, Earth evolves. As we become conscious, Earth becomes conscious, right? These other places, these other star systems, they haven't really come here because we're not awake, and we're kind of messy. So, but as we are gaining this consciousness, perhaps they will come here. So, and I do think it is different for each one, but I don't know exactly how yet. So I don't want to say, but I am just now learning that.
Thank you so much, April. I think the only thing I wanted to say about the expansion was on the scientific side. Like if you see when the Higgs boson created the Big Bang and the inflation started, and it's continuously inflating, consciousness is inflating, but even Eckhart says at some point in time, it'll all collapse back into the same. So that would be the end that April is talking about, and then it would regenerate again. The same thing would happen again. Again, the Higgs boson would start another Big Bang, and again, a generation of life, creation of planets and everything, the creation of a galaxy. It may not be the same galaxy, it may not be the same Earth, but it's kind of like beyond like conceptual thinking, right? But it seems that way, that there's, once we get connected to that stillness and understand that we can expand infinitely in that direction, right? We can go deep, 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 deep in, and there's infinity to it. When we understand that, then that's the expansion, that there's infinity to it. And then it's going to collapse back as well. And he interestingly said that at some point, maybe it'll just be one single entity that will collapse back into one single entity, was what Eckhart said. So you good, Michelle? I wanted to ask Patricia. Thank you. Patricia, did you want to say something about this? Now that we dealt with Summer's questions. Thank you, Summer.
Thank you so much, April. I felt like I was in the middle of the conversation where you were actually, and wow, interesting that my silly statement, which probably I didn't mean anything by it. I just figured that was, since, you know, we are here on this earth and the ego is running it, before we get to the realization that we are really the presence behind it, that's in my head was like, what's causing the karma? And it's either bad or good in the consequences. But yeah, it's just but I actually have a question too. How is time playing with that? Because karma seems to have a linear time. So we working through karma of our ancestors or our own karma from previous lives. But some of the spiritual teachers, even Joe Dispenza, right? He says that there are all those possibilities happening. Everything that was, everything that will be, it's all in the present moment. So I was thinking that maybe we dissolve karma when we actually so-called rewrite our stars. When we come out of the egoic, the person, and we realize that we are consciousness, wouldn't that karma dissolve just by itself, by that moment of realization? Like Eckhart, he doesn't have karma anymore, does he? He's just here still to teach others how to work through their karmas, but does he himself has any karma left? Thank you.
I'll answer the Eckhart question, and then April can take the first part. We have to realize, even saying I like a glass of wine, which Eckhart says, right? He has a form identity. He goes up to 2 glasses of wine. is creating karma, right? So just because it's Eckhart or just because it's Sadhguru, it doesn't, and then just imagine that when they make a decision, like when they make a decision to host, like say, School of Awakening, in that decision, they make a decision that they're not going to use Zoom, right? They're going to go for some lower platform because Eckhart is not the one making the decision. His one decision to host School of Awakening, somebody delegated that he has delegated that work to, which is Sanstru, will make a decision to use a lower platform. Just imagine how many people get irritated because of that platform. They're not used to it. And so they're creating karma. Out of that one decision, he's creating karma. So I recently heard Sadhguru say, an enlightened being creates more karma than a normal human being, because their scope is also a lot, right? And they have to, what he said, what Sadhguru said is, if we didn't have any karma, the spirit would leave, like the life force would leave the body. The holding into the body is karma. It almost is like he says, it's like a balloon. Just imagine a bubble. The structure of the bubble is held by karmic accumulation. If we pop or learn how to undo that bubble, we pop it, then it'll bust. That's a visual he gave, which was beautiful visual. Why karmic accumulation is needed. And that's why karmic accumulation is needed, so that our body, that form stays together. The moment the karmic accumulation is gone, it'll bust and returns to consciousness, right? Where does the air in the bubble go? Back to consciousness. So April, you want to answer this first part? I just wanted to take the Eckhart part. Thank you.
I forget what she asked because I was listening to you when I
I can say again, it was about time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So time is a very confusing concept, and I don't think that I still have the full concept of time because it's so confusing. And it's like, okay, well, is it linear, or does it go forward? Does it go backwards? Is there like 5,000 different paths? Like, what are you talking about? What am I doing? So from what I have understood is that,
because Joe Dispenza is saying that we can actually rewrite our stars by being in the present, by pulling the energy, but like imagining future to be different than the past and pulling different potentials from the quantum field. So wouldn't that be doing something on the karma level?
Well, so far what I understand is that in these other dimensions, in these other galaxies, planets, there is no time. Time doesn't exist in them. Time exists with Earth. Time is a dimension that surrounds, encapsulates, holds Earth, the third dimension. But if you go outside of the third dimension, there's no time. Earth is 3D, third dimension. That's my understanding of time. So we here we use time and we follow time, and it seems like it's linear, but it's not, because one, you can't you can't erase time, you can't erase energy. So once something has taken form and had an energy, it's there forever. That's the past, right? You can't actually delete energy. You can't destroy energy. You can disperse it, but you can't actually destroy it. The past had an energetic form, therefore you can't actually get rid of it. Then you have the future, which is not here yet, but we can project thoughts into the future, and we are on a trajectory, we are on a timeline that seems to be going towards the future. This is where the secret has, like, you know, I make a decision, I have a desire, and then in 3 months this desire manifests, but it's based off of the present moment of what's going to happen. But time is energy, so time in a sense will always be fluid, it will always be moving. You can't actually get rid of it. If you're able to open your mind enough to realize that time is just a dimension that's like spinning, that's like there, and you can go outside of that dimension like Joe Dispenza, then you have the freedom to pick and pull in any timeline, any option. But it's very hard for us as humans to understand this, to understand that there's multiple options that we can make this change. And when you are with the, so it's actually God, then your spirit, and then your soul comes into the body. Your higher self is the spirit, just to give it a different word, and then your soul squeezes into the body. Your spirit is in the dimension of no time. So if I can tap into my higher self, I can tap into that unlimited possibility, which is what Joe does. He takes you up into the 8th chakra, right? We're no longer in the 7 of the body. We're in the 8th. We're in the upper. Now I'm in the realm where all possibilities exist. I'm in my spirit. And I'm just saying that to give it a different word so that you understand. We have God, then you have your spirit, then you have your soul that's stuck in your body. Again, that's why you have these NDEs where people are like, oh, I was so expansive. I was so free and I had to squeeze back into this body, right? So you wanted to know how time fits in. Time is a construct that was needed in order to make the 3rd dimension happen, to make the 3rd dimension work in this reality. But it is not the truth, because there are other dimensions where time is not the constraint. And that should have also answered what the soul is.
Yes, I just figured. Yeah, you were saying it. Thanks. It all linked together. Superb.
Synchronicity would have it. I just listened to Becoming Supernatural and that chapter on time, Patricia.
Oh,
If I remember it correctly, the way he says it, what Dr. Joe Dispenza says, April explained some of it. What Dr. Joe Dispenza says is, and I've noticed this about myself because I do it in the morning, right? I'll think a thought. I need to I have to go make my lemon water, right? And then I go walk to the fridge, get the lemon, get the water, make the lemon water. Then the next thing will be, oh, I need to make my celery juice, right? Go get the celery. So he says, how much time does it take for you to, traverse space from one spot to wherever you need to go for he uses the example of coffee. I'm talking about the lemon water, since that's my first thing. You walk and get your coffee, one thought, and you get your coffee. It always takes us traveling through space and creating time. Maybe it takes 2 minutes to travel through space and getting to that time interval where we manifest the coffee or the lemon water. What he is saying is, so time is infinite, it's eternal. So they're infinite, like just think of slices. time, infinity, right? That's the infinity and eternity. And that's what creates space. Like the between time, there's space. So what he's saying is this going and saying, oh, I need my coffee, is a slower frequency. Like we are denser frequency, right? We are at the lower chakras and lower frequency, and we're going and getting the coffee or going and getting the lemon water. Then we say, I need to pay my mortgage. And in 30 years, we are going to a job and paying a mortgage, right? And paying down our home. What he's saying is, instead of cause and effect, you start to causing an effect, right? So in those infinite possibilities, raise your vibrational frequency, because at the speed of light, when we get to that speed of light, we try to traverse that infinity faster. So we collapse back all the spaces. When we collapse back all the spaces, we'll get to a point, and that's why I was encouraging April, hey, why don't you do your meditation so that you can pull out of that experience, you can pull an experience where everything is healed, right? And that faster frequency is what April is saying, being in the eighth chakra. That's what she's saying, right?
Thank you. Yes, that's.
Does that make sense? So
Yes.
that's what we are pulling. We are pulling that frequency, but all it takes is raise your vibrational frequency constantly. So be in a state of joy, like constantly, like even he says walking meditation. When you do the walking meditation, Nada explained it in one of the group meditations. He said, feel like you are wealthy. Like if you want to be wealthy, feel like you are the new person already in this moment. Feel like you're walking as a wealthy person. So you're pulling from, you're shifting, you're no longer the same body. And every time he ends a meditation, he always ends it with, you're in a new body, in a new environment, in a whole new time. You're a new body, new environment, in a whole new time. He's making you to shift, that you made the shift, right? That you're no longer the body that started the meditation. Now you're a different body. And as we keep doing the meditation, we suddenly pull, what people, I've listened to his testimonials, the people have done the meditation all day long. All they did was drink, eat, go to the bathroom maybe, right? But all day long, they've done his meditation. And within 3 or 4 days, they pulled that experience where they no longer had the cancer, the tumor in their spine or wherever. There was a lady that was talking about tumors being on her rib cage, like out of her breast cancer. They had, what is it called? Metastasized or something like that into the rib cage. And it disappeared. She pulled that experience where it healed.
So you're changing your state, and then if you're on higher vibration, you can pull that other experience. If you stay low, the karma, right, the bad karma, let's say, the very low frequency will just keep repeating because you can't get out of that.
We just do cause and effect. We'll remain in that cause and effect kind of thing instead of causing an effect. And the causing an effect is raising our vibrational frequency, like April said. Did that explain it better, April? A little bit more?
Yeah, that was good. And it's also the reason, like, when you could have swore like you seen something and you look and nothing was there. That happens a lot when I do readings with people. They'll mention that. And it's because once the soul gets to leave the body, it goes back to its original frequency, which is too fast for the human eye to see. So to come from source, then to come as your soul and squeeze into the body, you have to become a slower, denser energy. All of these practices teach you to raise your frequency. Even presence power, that's a raising of frequency. It's a calmer one, but it's still a higher frequency, right? And that is That's what all of them teach, is raise your frequency, back up to like one, like source.
Lakshmi had a question, April. She says, I have a question. Since Eckhart dissolves so much of his ancestral karma, does his mom and dad go through less suffering if they come back again as humans?
I don't know if they would go through less suffering necessarily, but you know, the thing like you talked about, if Eckhart puts on a show or a meditation or a retreat, it reminded me of the karma of like, if you are disabled in one lifetime and your parents take care of you your whole life, then in the next life, you come back and you are the wife of that person. And that person has to, so if you're the parent of this child that gets sick, and then the next lifetime you come back and one of the children come back as your husband who ends up disabled, and you end up taking care of him his whole life. That's the karmic pattern, right? Do you understand that? So if you had a child who was disabled and you took care of them their whole life, in the next lifetime, what could happen is you would be married to that person and they would have some sort of accident and you would end up taking care of them the whole time, right? So if Eckhart puts on a retreat and somebody helps him do all of this, so what I'm envisioning is he comes back in the next lifetime and he helps another soul become him. He helps another soul put on a retreat, right?
Okay.
This is how it's, so it's not always bad. Karma's not always bad. You know, he just comes back and he's the facilitator for somebody else's growth. It's still the same pattern. So I don't know that the parents would necessarily not suffer, but I think perhaps they would suffer less or shorter amount of time, because there's been some healing there, but each soul has its own purpose. So I think it would be less. I think it wouldn't be as intense or as much. What was her example? The parents, what?
Would have less suffering this.
Eckhart Tolle's parents, yes.
Yeah.
Eckhart. And when
Yeah,
when we talk of ancestors, it's not just ancestors like in what family we were born in. It's ancestors as in all of humanity. We're healing it for all of humanity, right? That soul is taking that wisdom, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, that soul is taking the wisdom back to the one consciousness for all of, again, when the next non-physical energy, it takes birth, it already has that wisdom, right?
Yep, that's that evolving thing that I was talking about, yes. Like all the children that were born some years ago were all the indigo children. They were supposed to be of higher consciousness, right? And that it will continue to happen. So yeah, I do think that perhaps they may have less suffering. But again, you have your individual soul that has its own individual plan. So it doesn't mean that they won't have any suffering. Perhaps they will be Eckhart and they will have 34 years of suffering. And then, you know, because somebody else did the work, you know, did some work. Yeah.
But we thank them for giving birth to that kid, right? And nurturing him. His parents. We are eternally grateful to them for having come together and given birth to such an indescribable, the words, the gratitude as well. Ken, did you want to say something about all these myriad topics that we went through and you've been
Wow.
dying to say something?
How did you know, Puna? Excellent, excellent, excellent. I loved what was being said. And for myself, this understanding is I spent the first half of my life going deeper into the black hole and just going deeper and deeper and deeper, and until the volcano erupted and I couldn't take any more pain and suffering. And then understanding, once I started to understand about pain and suffering, the stepping stones to healing, that there were other aspects of unconsciousness that started to resonate. And so I kind of committed myself to doing this work quite some time ago, but I didn't fully understand it. And there was that part of me that just kept at it, and realizing that at times I feel good and then other times I don't feel good. And then when there were certain people would trigger or bring up different things, and I started to really realize that, okay, there's something really going on beyond my human understanding. And I needed to believe in something greater than myself to think that I could figure it out. And when that came about, then I started to learn about surrender and realizing that there are different energy fields. And that's when my inner GPS or my inner magnet or my higher self, as you will, I would pray, meditate, and then by doing that, things would show up, the synchronicities. And I start realizing that, okay, this is part of, and then also on how I felt. It was like, I actually feel better most of the time, unless I'm going through something that I need to go through. And that was the confusing part sometimes. And then sometimes I would get angry at God. Well, why you put me here for? And then what I realized is, well, that was something I needed to feel or understand. That was the pain that I was trying to deny or suppress. And realizing when I surrender to it, something else happens. And then new information would come in. And that's where, depending on what I'm reading, depending on who I'm with, and that was a big, huge piece, being in the presence of this group, and realize this is huge. So it was something where, and all of a sudden, I feel like I'm growing up, or all those aspects of the inner child that was petrified, I started to trust into surrendering. I started to trust that it's okay. Just step into the fire, step into the uncomfortability. And as soon as this started happening, then I would actually start seeing people doing it. And I'm like, thank you. So it's just amazing how spirit can show up in so many different ways. And now when I'm in my stillness, I just pay attention, whether they're license plates, whether they're a movie, whether they're a book, whether they're coming in here, listening, and I'm just realizing that there are no mistakes in this world. So it's just been phenomenal on how all this comes together. And a big thing just recently too is I wanted to get closer to people, but I wanted platonic relationships. I wanted that, what's the word I'm thinking of? It would come to me. Just getting closer to feel the love without holding back. Because I realized that I had beliefs or attachments to think I shouldn't be feeling this. So now when I start to get these feelings, it's almost like I'm at a higher level or a higher frequency of consciousness. And as I go deeper, more and more is revealed. So I'm realizing that, of course, I'm not going to understand what I'm going to understand in a year, because I have to take the layers off, or I have to step into the different frequencies, because they're all a teacher. And so it's just helping me to really understand and to be available. And I feel like first time in my life, I always felt I didn't know enough. And I'm starting to let that go. Don't think about it. And then this whole concept, watch out what you think about, because whatever you think about, you're going to bring to you. And I've learned that lesson in so many ways, that if you don't want something in your life, don't think about it. And what you do want in your life, just like you're saying, Poonam, feel good, that frequency. So I'm really paying attention at a much deeper level, is watch what I think about. And I'm learning, when I start to get something that doesn't feel quite right, go inside and kind of like stop myself into that awareness, into the presence. And lots of times I'll just tell myself, I love you so much. I'm so, so proud of you to continue doing the work. And so I'm talking to myself differently. And when I start to do that, I start to smile. And then when I'm hearing other people in the group or whatnot, realizing I can't give something until I have it for myself. And so many people would, all my life, would say, how come you keep doing this? And all that was shaming me, making me small. And they had no idea that they were actually pushing me down deeper into what wasn't going to work. So now I'm able to stand up for myself and realize that I'm starting to feel good, and I'm not self-seeking anymore. I'm not looking for it from others. I can now give it to myself. And the self-love is incredible, to really feel that. And I never knew that. I was always looking for somebody to love me. So when I let that go, and it's amazing when you do let something go, and then what you did want starts to come to you. So it's a miracle. So just truly, truly grateful for what's happening to all of us. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ken. That was a flawless example of how you've evolved. Like this, you're learning how to dissolve some of your karmic patterns, and you're showing us what those patterns used to be. Being uncomfortable with your emotions, being uncomfortable being around people, and being true to you, how you could bond with them authentically. Right? Now you want to bond with them in a more authentic manner.
Yes, and now I'm feeling that love. And it's like, oh my God, it's like, and this is what I've been yearning for my whole life, but I couldn't express it. I couldn't show it because I still had those obstacles that I needed to work through. So important to surrender, show your vulnerability, and realizing when I'm seeing that in somebody else, in many cases, people are doing it for me. I just need to have the strength and the courage to say, I can do that too.
Beautiful.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. April, there's a question from Lakshmi that says, soul families tend to reincarnate together, right?
Yes, we do reincarnate together. We do stay within the same soul families. And that can be extensive. So again, you guys were my neighbors or my co-workers in some other lifetime, or we were cowboys, or we were in India, or we were somewhere together sometime. We could have been in one of these other galaxies together. We could have been in Atlantis together. We were together some way, somehow. So it is quite extensive, but we do often reincarnate like, I can tell you that my um, third daughter, she did things when she was little, like she was 3 years old, like she would say things about friends or other people that, and I would say, well, why are you saying that? Well, because he was my brother in my other life. What? This is a friend. This is not, you know. So, and of course, kids, the veil is thin at that time. And we come in with the veil thin, we come in happy, we come in, exploring life, most of us, and then society puts on us the dogma, the rules, the regulations, and we learn to be sad. But most of us don't come in sad. Most of us come in pretty happy. I've never really met a sad 2-year-old, right? So usually when it comes to like moms, dads, daughters, we tend to stay pretty close as far as reincarnation. Not every time, not always, but we do tend to stay close. So I do remember my dad from other lifetimes. I actually remember my current husband from another lifetime. And then my brother, I actually remember another lifetime with my brother where my brother was my child. So we tend to stay pretty close in those, but then the other ones can spread out. You could have a sister that could be a girlfriend in another lifetime, that kind of thing. But the answer is yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. I think Brian Weiss took a young man in his regression. He had like some kind of depression or something. And then he had actually it wasn't depression. He had a very caustic relationship. I'm using the wrong words, but some kind of strained relationship with his sister. And then when he took him through his past life regression, he found out during the past life regression that in his past life, there was this woman that was being assaulted by a man, and he was not able to save her. And that same woman was now his sister. So then he had to repair that relationship, right? So she in her strain is saying, hey, you didn't save me then, you're not saving me now as well, right? Somehow that soul is kind of trying to tell you that. There's one more question from Summer. I don't know if you can answer it real quickly, April. She says, I feel like American Indians were born of higher consciousness and related to Earth, but they suffered so much. Isn't it like it's every culture suffered so much, right? They were of higher, even East Indian, like 30,000 years ago, that's where the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas and Puranas come from, right? It's like a 10,000-year-old scripture. And then it's the descent of the divine into matter. Regression happened the past 5,000 years, seems like. April, you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think that initially many of us throughout the world came in actually descendants of very high consciousness, and we did descend, we did regress through it's economic, it's industrial revolution, it's the I must succeed, the ego taking over. I have to have the biggest house, the fastest car. I do think that we 100% regressed. And they did suffer. So, but also, and Eckhart, actually, I just listened to him this morning, and he said, again, being spiritual doesn't mean you're not going to suffer. That does not mean you're not going to have any form of suffering. It just means that you will be able to find the presence power faster. You'll be able to find the purpose faster. You'll be able to create the healing faster, the forgiveness. And for me, forgiveness requires healing, but healing requires forgiveness. I see healing and forgiveness as like a figure eight. They intertwine with each other. So being spiritual, I mean, Sadhguru, like his story, it doesn't mean you won't have issues, even his story as a child or with his wife. It doesn't mean you won't suffer. It just means that you will be able to heal and find that wholeness and that oneness, that love faster.
Beautiful. On that note, we will end because I have to wake up early tomorrow in the morning. So this was an incredibly amazing session. We paid like incredible respect to Eckhart, right, on his birthday. So happy birthday, Eckhart, again. And eternally grateful to all of you panel members and to Lakshmi and Summer and everyone that's online as well. So many blessings. Much love. Good night. Bye.